It's spring, so days are getting longer and trees are starting to wake up. Ramps are some of the very first greens to grow in the woods. Ramps are a wild onion with a unique garlic flavor. They go great in soups, salads, and a bunch more. So let's go harvest and cook some ramps. Ramps tend to grow in forests near hardwood trees like maple, oak, and other trees that lose their leaves in the winter. I've noticed that they can be found in the same areas where trillium thrive. Look for patches of bright green leaves emerging in forests in early spring. The leaves look like this, and they're easy to spot from far away with a little practice. Harvest ramps responsibly to avoid depleting crops. They will not grow in abundance next year if you take too many or if you destroy the roots. Take no more than 1 of every 4 ramps you find. Use a garden trowel and a clean, sharp knife. Gently expose the stem and bulb. Be careful not to disturb the roots. So here we have the greens, the stem, and the bulb, but the root's underground still. Cut at the base of the bulb with a knife, leaving the root in the ground. Cover up the roots. Here they are. It's all edible. You can tell where the roots are because the bulb starts to taper off. So right under here are where the roots start. Nice clean cut here. And it's a ramp. You can eat these fresh. Make sure it's nice and clean. Wipe it on your shirt, wipe it on your friend's shirt. That's good. These woods are full of ramps, and that will still be the case by the time I'm done here. You've got to harvest responsibly. Time to harvest some more from a few of my favorite spots, then head inside to make my fresh ramp potato soup. This is a simple recipe, but the results are loaded with flavor. Clean the ramps thoroughly with plenty of cold water, and if needed, trim the ends. Fresh, green, free, that's for me. Use celery, carrots, and onions to develop a veggie stock with lots of water and salt, or you can use a store-bought stock. Be sure to visit cookingwithscuttle.com for this full recipe, which includes lots of various options with and without milk and with and without bacon. Finally, chop an onion. Pretty simple. I like to cut off the end, not the root, the end. Small cut. Cut it in half here. Just like that, straight down. 2 halves. Get rid of this outside junk. Don't need that. Same thing on both sides. No need to waste time, just rip it off. We're going for a small dice. Make some cuts across. With the root end over here, I'm gonna make some cuts going out this way. Pretty close together. Leave just a little uncut on this side though. You don't want the onion to fall apart. We want that to hold it together on the root side. Cut, cut. Holding the knife here. Not here with my finger out because that doesn't work so well. And your hand's gonna get tired, you won't have a lot of control. Balance the knife, hold it right here, more control. Turn it, and we're gonna cut this way. The root's over here now. Look at that. When we get to the end, I usually just get really close. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. With some practice, you can cut a whole onion in maybe a minute. Notice I'm using my knuckles here, not sticking any fingers or thumbs out, bracing against my knuckles for a nice, safe cut. Heat olive oil or veggie oil in a deep pot or Dutch oven and cook the onions. Add salt. Finely chop celery. So we want these to be nice and small pieces. One way to do that is to separate these, split it right down lengthwise. Continue the cut. See that? So 3 separate pieces. Use the pivot point, tip of the knife here. Line these up. Cut, 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 cut. Add the celery and stir. You can even puree the soup at the end if you prefer. Finely chop or grate the carrots. Meanwhile, stir the onions and celery. You actually don't have to peel carrots as long as the outside's not all dried out and nasty. Nipping off just the very ends. That's it. keeping the rest for the dish. I'm gonna carefully hold this so they don't roll. Lay the knife down, fingers clear. I'm actually going to leave the end on to hold this in place. Guide the knife in against my fingers so I'm not actually letting this roll. Fingers out of the way. Nice and easy cut. So we have this in 4 pieces. Sort of like the celery, we can cut right across here. Fingers back, holding these together. Nice and uniform pieces, just like that. Add your carrots to the pot and cook for a few minutes. Set aside about 1/3 of the cooked veggies. We'll add those again towards the end. Add water and salt, and now is a good time to add pepper. It doesn't work well to add pepper over steam, so adding it when the dish cools temporarily helps a lot. Bring it to a boil, then reduce heat and simmer for 15 to 20 minutes until everything starts to break down and a nice basic stock develops. While the stock simmers, wash and cut 4 to 6 medium potatoes or 6 to 8 small ones. Most types of potatoes work well. What I like to do with these potatoes, see it's fairly narrow like this. I'm just gonna slice it down this way here, push it down through without letting it roll. So we have the 2 halves here, 1 half at a time. I have a nice edge here, make some slices to separate this. I kind of hold it together so the little slices don't go everywhere. And I'm going to cut several times down through, about equal distance apart. Turn it, cut right across like this. As you can see, they're sort of rectangular pieces, really nice, and we've left the peel on. Do the same thing with this half, cut the rest just like that. If you do get any potatoes that are thick, you can make 3 separate slices and cut up the 3 slices just like you did these 2. These will cook fairly fast, but they'll hold up a little bit in the soup. Cut the ramp stems and bulbs to separate from the greens. Ramps. These are bunched together so it's super easy, and just make that cut. Chop them into small coins like this. Basically just go right across, make some cuts right across. Finally chop the greens, much like you would fresh basil. Stack several leaves, then roll, almost like a cigar, and slice lengthwise. And then chop from one end to the other. This is a lot like a chiffonade, but we're going for smaller pieces rather than long ribbons. The greens and the rest of the ramps will be added to the soup at different times in the cooking process. Add potatoes to the stock once it's ready and increase the heat to bring to a boil. Then reduce the heat, add the ramp stems and the bulbs. Also add any reserved veggies. This keeps the veggies from breaking down too much in the soup and becoming too soggy. You'll still have some nice pieces with a firm bite. Watch closely because you don't want to overcook the potatoes. They can overcook really quickly. Add ramp greens and return to a simmer. Simmer for a minute or 2 and remove from the heat. If you're not pureeing your soup, be especially careful not to overcook potatoes. This is a great base recipe which allows for a lot of customization. You can add bacon or milk or even cook this without ramps all year round. Be sure to visit cookingwithscuttle.com to see several options for this recipe. Ramps are only fresh for a few short weeks each year, so harvest responsibly, but enjoy them while you can. Thank you for joining me. Tune in next time and I'll teach you how to make something else.
Food porn.